The courthouse was buzzing with anticipation. It was a high-profile trial, but no one knew that the real drama was about to unfold in the courtroom itself. Judge Clara May, newly appointed and one of the few black women to hold such a prestigious position, was presiding over a case involving police misconduct. Her calm demeanor and sharp mind had earned her the respect of those who knew her. But for some, it wasn't enough. Some officers felt threatened by her rise to power, and Sergeant Alan Cruz was one of them. Cruz was notorious in the department. He wasn't just a cop, he was a problem, ruthless, and always looking for a fight. And today, in this courtroom, he was about to cross a line that would change everything. Clara had been reading the case file when Cruz, accompanied by the defendant, entered the room. She glanced up and gave him a polite nod. Cruz, however, didn't acknowledge her with the same respect. Instead, his eyes narrowed as he spotted Clara sitting on the bench. "You're telling me she's the judge?" Cruz muttered under his breath, too loudly for only his partner to hear. The deputy next to him looked uncomfortable, but didn't speak. Cruz was a big deal in the force, known for his aggressive tactics, his no-nonsense approach. Clara May was a newcomer, and the officers in the room weren't sure whether to respect her or look down on her. "Let's keep it professional, Cruz," the deputy whispered. But Cruz wasn't having it. He stepped forward to the stand, hands on his hips. "I don't know what kind of game you think you're playing here, but I don't take orders from someone like you." Clara's eyes flashed. "Excuse me, Sergeant?" she asked, her voice firm. "You heard me," Cruz spat. "You're not fit to be here. We don't need a judge who's soft on crime." The courtroom froze. Clara didn't flinch. She stood up, her black robe flowing behind her. "Sergeant, I suggest you hold your tongue before I hold you in contempt of court." But Cruz wasn't finished. His anger, fueled by years of unchecked authority, surged. "You think you can run this courthouse?" he yelled, walking closer to the bench. With no warning, he shoved the papers on her desk aside and lunged at Clara, grabbing her by the arm. But Clara had been ready for more than just words. In one swift motion, she pulled her arm free and with a powerful right hook, punched Cruz square in the jaw. The sound echoed through the room. For a moment, the entire courtroom was in stunned silence. Cruz staggered backward, his hand flying to his face as Clara stood tall, unshaken. "You've made a huge mistake," Clara said, her voice cold but steady. "You just hit a judge." As the room erupted into chaos, Clara's eyes never left Cruz. His smug arrogance had crumbled into shock, and in that moment, the balance of power had shifted. The courthouse was in chaos. The sharp crack of Clara May's fist against Sergeant Cruz's jaw reverberated in the minds of everyone who had witnessed it. It wasn't just a physical strike. It was a blow to the system itself, a challenge to the very foundation of power that had allowed officers like Cruz to operate unchecked for so long. Cruz stumbled backward, gripping his jaw, eyes wide in disbelief. For a moment, he didn't know whether to retaliate or retreat. The shock in the room was palpable. Officers and attorneys alike were frozen, unsure of what would happen next. But Clara? Clara had already moved past the moment. She was calm, composed, her mind racing through the next steps. She knew this wouldn't be just about one punch. This would be about exposing the rot in the system, the deep-rooted corruption, and the unchecked power that certain officers held. "Bailiff, take Sergeant Cruz into custody," Clara ordered, her voice unwavering. Her authority filled the room, silencing any objections. The bailiff stepped forward, carefully securing Cruz's wrists with cold, steel cuffs. "You have the right to remain silent." The bailiff read Cruz his rights, but Cruz was too stunned to respond. The weight of the situation was sinking in. Clara turned her attention to the courtroom. "Court is adjourned. We will reconvene when order is restored." The murmurs in the room turned into whispers, and then into a cacophony of voices. Attorneys scrambled to speak with their clients, while officers huddled together exchanging heated words. No one was prepared for what had just unfolded. Within hours, the story spread across every major news outlet. The video of Clara May's punch went viral, and it wasn't just the act of physical confrontation that captured people's attention. It was the fact that she had struck back against the oppressive force that had long ruled over the city. The press coverage was relentless. Headlines screamed, "Black judge takes on racist cop in stunning showdown. Racist cop attacks judge in court, but she doesn't back down. Police brutality exposed in courtroom. Judge fights back." But as Clara sat in her chambers watching the news unfold, she knew this was only the beginning. Cruz wasn't the only one who needed to be held accountable. As the days passed, Clara began to uncover the depth of the corruption within the police department. Cruz was a symptom of a much larger problem, one that stretched across years of misconduct, racism, and abuse of power. The more she dug, the more she found. Officers who had repeatedly violated citizens' rights, who had covered up their wrongdoings, and who were allowed to flourish in a system that turned a blind eye. Clara's phone rang late one evening. It was Detective Samuel Hayes, a trusted ally in the department, who had been working with Clara on various cases involving police misconduct. "You're not going to like this," Hayes said. "I've been looking through Cruz's records. He's been involved in multiple complaints over the years, racial profiling, excessive force, and harassment, but every single one of them was buried." Clara's pulse quickened. "How deep does this go?" "Deep," Hayes replied. "There's a whole network of officers who protect each other. Cruz is just the tip of the iceberg. If we want to take down the whole operation, it's going to take everything we've got." Clara clenched her jaw. This was no longer just about one officer. It was about a system that needed to be dismantled, and Clara May wasn't backing down. "I'm going public with this," she declared, her voice firm. "It's time the people of this city know what's really going on." The following morning, Clara held a press conference. Standing at the podium, surrounded by reporters and cameras, Clara faced the public, unflinching. "Over the past few days, we've seen how one incident can expose the darkness lurking beneath the surface," she began, her voice steady. "But this is not just about one cop. It's about a system that has protected him and others like him for far too long." The room was silent as she continued. "I will not allow this city's justice system to be defined by corruption, by fear, or by violence. We are going to uncover the truth. Every last bit of it." Clara's words were powerful, but they were only the beginning. She had exposed the cracks in the system. Now, she would bring the whole thing crashing down. The city was in turmoil. Protests flooded the streets, demanding justice not just for Clara May, but for every person who had been wronged by a corrupt system. The case against Sergeant Cruz was just the beginning. The public's outrage grew as the investigation into police misconduct unfolded. What Clara had uncovered was bigger than anyone had imagined. Every day, more officers were implicated, their misdeeds coming to light. The media couldn't get enough of the scandal. Clara's name was on everyone's lips. She had become a symbol of resilience, of standing up against the system that protected those who abused their power. But Clara wasn't done. She couldn't stop now. Cruz was just the beginning, but the others were still out there, lurking in the shadows, using their badges as shields. Late one evening, Clara sat in her office, surrounded by case files. The weight of the truth pressed heavily on her shoulders. She had fought for justice her entire career, but now it felt personal. The system had attacked her, but she was going to take it down piece by piece. A knock on her door pulled her from her thoughts. "Judge May," Detective Hayes said as he entered. "We've got something." Clara looked up. "What is it?" "We found the links," Hayes said, holding up a thick folder. "It's all here. Years of corruption, multiple officers involved in criminal activities, and the city's top brass covering it up. It's time to go public." Clara stood up, her face hardening. "Let's do it. We're taking them all down. The following week, Clara held another press conference. This time, the stakes were higher. She stood before the cameras, unwavering. This isn't just about one officer or one department. It's about a system that has turned a blind eye for too long. But today, we will no longer tolerate corruption. The truth will be known and justice will be served. As she spoke, the weight of her words sunk in. This wasn't just a victory for her. It was a victory for everyone who had ever been silenced. In the end, Clara May stood victorious. Cruz was convicted, and the department was forced to undergo sweeping reforms. The system that had tried to destroy her was now being rebuilt, piece by piece. Clara's courage had sparked a movement for justice that could no longer be ignored.